So I've been working through my half-sword addiction, he's fine, so I can get to something I've been wanting to replay. Chrono Trigger. I had the original cartridge back in the day, probably something I begged for because I was young and still thought I deserved good things, and played it thoroughly. Even kept my SNES on for days at a time when the save battery failed. You see, I have a soft spot for games that give you a normal protagonist who sees the future and thinks, you know what, screw that, we're gonna go change things, which probably comes from Chrono Trigger being my very first RPG. Now, 30 years later, I am old and want to play it again to see if it's still good. To see if I can still recommend it today or if Chrono Trigger helped improve the landscape of RPGs decades ago and should stay in that era. And I want to share the experience of going through it again with you. So sit back, relax, and get to work on your art or novel because this is going to be a long one. I'm going to play through it and talk about the story beats and focus on what I think is important, while also sharing my insights and whatever trivia I find relevant. Spoilers for the whole game, of course. As I play, I'm hoping to discover two things: if I still love the game and if I can still recommend Chrono Trigger today. We're gonna do this on the Steam version. This is my first time playing the updated stuff. I didn't play the DS version because I did not have a DS and could not tulpa one together. I instead had to make do with the terrible video game adaptation of Gontrov, which, the music as the game starts naturally brings me back. The options at the start of the game are strange to me. I decided to go with the updated sprites because the old ones were probably designed to look good on a CRT. The Good Morning Chrono, as we are introduced to our main character and player avatar, Chrono. The first thing you'll probably notice is that he looks like Super Saiyan God Goku in GT clothing, though it is more accurate to say that SSG Goku looks like him because this probably came before God Goku. Anyway, you instantly know that the game has Akira Toriyama's hands all over it, in a good way. Also, fun fact, I believe this was made when it was still Squaresoft, not Square Enix. Anyway, Chrono is awakened because it's the year 1000 AD and it's time to go to the Millennial Fair. Not a fair full of millennials, just a fair about the millennium. A fair of millennials is just called a job fair. I know what to do at the Millennial Fair because I'm from the future. So, I know not to bump Marl for reasons that will become obvious in about 2 hours. But she's more polite than I am. She will never bump me. Unfortunately, I gotta wreck her shit to progress the plot, so I do.
Are you okay?
We meet Marl, whose full name is Marlidia, for reasons that will become obvious in a little bit, except not because that's not how the translation worked. Anyway, she is a blonde Bulma with a crossbow. Generally, at the Millennial Fair, I'm not gonna be a jerk, and after 5 minutes being a nice guy, including waiting quietly while Marl does candy shopping, we go see Luca, who does not live on the second floor. She does not live upstairs from you. She is, however, your childhood friend, and you're gonna check out her new invention, a teleporter. In 1000 AD. I didn't find it crazy that someone made a teleporter back in the day. Oh, and that guy with a special sprite, Melchior? Don't worry about it. Anyway, 10-year-old me just accepted things like a sponge. Nowadays, I don't think I'd be so open to weird ideas like I'd have to be egged into it compared to before, but alas, time makes fools of us all. Surprise, surprise, the teleporter works perfectly, unless you happen to be carrying a magical pendant, the way that Marl is. If you are, this happens. Here, despite Chrono being a silent protagonist, we get the first hint of his character. He sees a chance to do good, so he does good. Lady he just met vanished? Let's go try to help her because apparently he's the only one who noticed that the big shining pendant sparkling when the teleporter did its thing is probably involved. Anyway, now we're time traveling. Welcome to 600 AD. Alright, weird forest attacked by imps. Let's go. There's a lot going on here. Immediately, the game teaches you mechanics such as techs, which are a character's special moves or spells. The first one you get is Cyclone, which teaches you two things: area attacks and enemy positioning. The attack only hits enemies that are within a certain distance of the main target, and it teaches you this by immediately throwing a pile of enemies at you after you learn the technique. Neat. It also shows you that combat is not random, and it happens either by bumping an enemy or passing a trigger on the map. Also neat. Removes a lot of the fear from adventuring, and I think that was one of the first games to deviate from random encounters as a whole. It made adventuring less stressful and encouraged exploration. All of that is in the first area. Once the game teaches you all of that, you get to go find that blonde you just met. You go into town, and they tell you that someone who looks like her has been found in the same area you just came from. But instead of Marl, they're calling her Queen Lean. There's a bit of confusion here, so you head to the castle to clear things up. Although the guards naturally do not trust this random stranger who just walked into the king's castle. So, you need a bit of help from Marl to keep the guards from treating you like they treat me at a buffet. You follow Marl up to the queen's room, which I guess implies a certain understanding in the relationship between the king and queen, because no one bats an eye. And everything seems to have worked out. You are lost in time together, but you have found each other. Or rather, you have found yourself in a hell of a pickle because... I found that entire sequence harrowing as a kid, and I imagine Chrono did as well. Luca finds you after this, and, because she can time travel, because she's brilliant. She doesn't need no special pendant, she's got science. Science also let her get through the guards, don't ask. But do ask what makes her different in a setting with magic and swords, because she brings a different approach to handling enemies than her contemporaries. A gun. Luca explains that Marl is the spitting image of Queen Lean and is indeed mistaken for her because they are related. Marl is actually Princess Nadia of the Kingdom of Guardia in year 1000 AD. This is a good thing because she is not her own grandma. However, the case of mistaken identity does mess things up historically. The search for the queen of the time, Lean, is called off because they think Marl is Lean. So the real Lean is never found and Nadia is never born. Hey, so it falls to you to find the queen and to rescue her.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
Anyway, by process of elimination, there is nowhere else to go. We go to the chapel to find the real Lean, where we meet a mysterious knight paladin who Chrono names Frog because Chrono is Asgorian in his naming skills. He's pretty cool and gives us the second of our combination techniques. If two or more characters have the right techs and they have full action bars, they can combine their moves into one big attack. Luca gives us Flame Whirl, while Frog gives us that one attack everyone in grade school did with their best friend, X Strike. We also get our first dungeon. It's simple and functional, so all I'll mention here are the crit animations, which change before the damage number pops up. It makes it way more exciting than looking for a bigger or different color of number. Oh, and if we adventure around a little bit, we spot a chamber previewing one of our main bad guys, Magus, who is not Piccolo with hair. Anyway, we meet Yakura, who was the Chancellor to absolutely nobody's surprise. We beat them, everybody is happy. Marl has experienced death and nothingness in a way that would make Buddhists jealous, and that jealousy will ruin their own journey to Nirvana. Also, we get to go home because Luca, in what I assume is an afternoon, named and created the concept of timing gates and a gate key to force rifts in time, but notably not in space. For now, our adventure into 680 is done and we go back to the present. Not sure where the story goes from here? Don't worry. We bring Marl home only to discover a surprisingly realistic outcome. The princess ran away, disappeared, and a commoner brought her back. It's not a good look. So, Chrono is viewed with suspicion and immediately sent to trial, which is surprisingly expedient. The trial experience itself is a banger, and for little child me, it was very, very cool. I only saw this stuff on TV, and now my video game is letting me be in the trial. Suck it, LA Law, it's Chrono Town. Anyway, consequences come back here. I did none of the normal adventurous stuff, like steal things, so prosecution has nothing. Additionally, I think as a child this defined my understanding and expectations of RPGs, and that what you do should have consequences. Either way, you're still sent to prison because you still aided Nadia in disappearing, so sure, 3 days in the pen ain't so bad. Free meals. Should mail my mom though, but I don't, and she doesn't seem to check the news. The walk to the prison and the Chancellor's subsequent bullshit were also cool for Kid Me. Turns out he had a finger on the scale. Hey, that guy's a lying ass fuck. don't listen to his lying ass fuck ass. Also, the background and the walk, the scale, it's just beautiful. Huge fan of how they did this. Naturally, we escape because they let the teenager keep his sword. Prison escape moment. Mild stealth elements can sneak up on guards or just fight them. Giant guard is a plodding guard. Misses a lot, but man, it seems like it'll hurt if he does hit. Super cool and evokes a ton of imagery. Good time to mention the sprite work and the use of animations for multiple purposes. Walking animations are used as an eating animation, for example. They did so much with so little back in the day. Oh, there is one enemy in the prison that teaches you enemy states. Yakra did that a little bit with her counterattack, but this lesson is more blatant. If they're hiding behind the shield, nothing good happens when you attack them. But sometimes they'll peek out. Then you can whack them. Anyway, on the way out, I freed Fritz from the market, which is a good time to mention that Chrono Trigger is not a moral choice game where, oh my god, that guy is actually a puppy-kicking champion, and he's British, who have historically had a massively negative impact on people around the world. Will you free him anyway because the government is wrongfully imprisoning him? That is not a question that comes up in this game. Chrono Trigger is more about doing as much as you can rather than doing the right thing? Because what you are allowed to do in the game is generally good and comes with positive outcomes. A very idealistic and optimistic stance that it will reinforce throughout its playtime. Also, Luca arrives just in time to help you against the boss of this area. As an aside, if you do not escape from prison for whatever reason and just stay there, Luca will break you out. The boss for this area is the Dragon Tank. Cool boss fight. You can get info on the head's abilities and what it can do by reading, but in case you're an Undertale fan, it just shows you what the bad guy can do from the start so you can formulate a strategy. Also, it has a sync kill with Chrono. Badass. Additionally, Suck It Chancellor, who is obviously related to the Yakra in the past, but we don't know that in-game. You escape, and after a few banger lines from Marl, we jump into a random gate, because we don't have a choice. The gate sends us into the future, and it is immediately bleak. The overworld is bleak, the sprites are bleak, even the idea of the Enerton, which restores HP and MP, is horrifying in that context, because it can give you energy and strength, but you are no more satisfied, and you're still hungry, doomed to stay alive, but hungry and suffering. The option to live is there. You have to choose to die if you want to be free. Anyway, it's time to race. But not before adventuring a bit and discovering that things are messed up. Not only are you in a world of ruin, but your enemies are different. Monstrous, mutated, wrong. Inheritors of a dead land. Oh yeah, racing! But not yet. First, we have to try to help people get to food, which is guarded by a giant robot that we know of and still surprises us somehow. I forgot to take off the berserk ring, but it still worked out. Unfortunately, the food is rotten, though there is a literal seed of hope. Anyway, time to catch a rat, which leads us to discover what happened. Why is the world like this? The Day of Lavos, 1999 AD. This moment seared into my memory. This is what I loved about the story. No chosen one, nothing special. These are just kids who saw something terrible happen and said, no, we're gonna fix this. It's not even something that's gonna bother them in their timeline, in their lives. It's gonna go down 1,000 years into their future. It's not something that directly impacts them. But they are not interested in the now. These kids are interested in planting trees whose shade they will never sit under. Anyway, we're gonna fuck this Lavos thing up, and we're gonna do it smart by trying to research this spiky bastard. But Pat, if they change the future, what happens to the people who already exist? Not our problem. Anyway, the race finally happens. Eat my dust, Johnny, though for real, your design is ballin'. Let's go on with a robot story. Because we find a robot where the gate is. Door's locked. Robot can help us. His serial number is R66Y or R6Sexy, but we name him something different, something cooler. Robo the robot. A bear with Frog the Frog, who appears to be a toad. All we need now is Magus the Mage. Oh no. Anyway, first full-fledged dungeon. I think we had a dungeon a while ago, but it was more of an introductory experience. This one needs actual adventuring and opening and some puzzle solving. Perfectly serviceable. Boss fight at the end is a little brutal, but I didn't come in with full HP. Also, it was emotionally brutal as well. It's a little manipulative because of the music and the quick way it establishes that this is sad, holy cow. But that in itself is a skill, so I'm gonna give it a pass. Robo is repaired and you all jump into the portal, hoping to stumble into a way to save the world, since you have no real clues on anything. Well, the good news is you do stumble into something. And it's the end of time, because apparently going through gates with more than 3 people can cause time to wig out and send us into a holding area until we load the time elevator properly. On the one hand, this tells us why we can only have 3 people in the party. On the other hand, why don't we just go in batches of 3 or something? But anyway, we meet Gaspar, a totally normal old man, and Specchio, a totally normal whatever the hell you see him as. Interestingly, now it shows you what techs you have access to when you form your party. I'm pretty sure that wasn't a thing before, so that's kind of neat. Specchio, by the way, gives us a bit of lore. Magic was an ancient power until its users messed up the world. Duh. Now only fiends can use it. Surely that information is just window dressing and not relevant, surely. And now, we have magic, which honestly, since it came after time travel, it makes sense that no one really bats an eye at it. Everyone was treating time travel as if it were just a different stop on the morning commute. Also, there is a bucket that leads to Lavos, which is a good time to talk about endings. The game, Chrono Trigger, is inherently about consequence, though how dynamically reactive it is to you is very limited. While you do change the world, it is not a matter of how you did something, but that you did something at all, unlike say Dragon Age or Mass Effect. Most of your control is in the endings, which is a result of you deciding when to beat the game rather than the minutiae of your actions, which makes sense because of some stuff that is revealed later. Also, you are not really gonna get to access those endings until New Game Plus, which I'm pretty sure this game popularized, if not outright created. So props to you, Chrono Trigger. We go back to the present through a different gate. We end up in the Monster Village and learn that Magus, the Fiendlord, summoned Lavos 400 years ago in 600 AD, which makes little sense because Lavos popped up in 1999, but that's our only lead, so we're gonna go back in time. So we head to the fairgrounds and run it back. The war against the Fiendlord appears to be going a little bit weird because a hero showed up. The hero. Because he had the hero medal. The king is wounded, unfortunately, and the hero is looking for a Magus killing sword. Coincidentally, that is something we're interested in because no Magus probably means no Lavos. So we fight our way through the bridge to get to the South Continent where the hero went. Super cool sequence, by the way. And we meet Ozzy, who is a rock star and one of Magus's generals. Game does not hold your hand here, by the way. You gotta talk to people. You gotta go into town, figure out what's going on according to dialogue. Actually engage with the content. There's no marker, there's no journal. This is also where I imagine people getting filtered if they're used to waypoints. You can also find Frog in the Cursed Forest, who you can catch up on current events so he can be further depressed. The second town said go to the mountain. So we go to the mountain, where I assume a Magus killing sword is hidden that only the hero can wield and or find. But the hero appears to be a child named Tata, who is definitely out of his depth. You, however, are teens with an attitude, so you can climb with relative ease, and you have magic. That probably helps. You find your way into a mysterious cave, and between you and the sword are 2 mysterious beings, Masa and Mune, who are spirits of the wind, or farts, who can tell with that color. After a fusion dance, they give you the new and improved boss theme for bigger and grander fights. He's a meaty bastard. When you beat them, you find the sword that kills Magus is broken, which explains why Magus doesn't seem all that concerned about it. So now it's time to go fix it. But first, we take the medal back from the kid, then go give it back to Frog, who had dropped it. He has the other half of the Masamune, to our shock, I guess, which our party realizes has the name of the maker. It's Melchior, that guy in 1000 AD. We're not the only ones going around in time, but the team shrugs it off. They're staying on task. Other time travelers are not their problem. Lavos is. We go back to the future to find out that Melchior can't fix it. He's got the skill, but not the material. He needs Dreamstone, something that hasn't been around in a very long time. So, to the past we go, way back. 65 million BC, which implies that there is a Christ in this universe. Anyway, we fall off a cliff. Time, not space. And then we fight off fart lizards. And then we get a cutscene of Isla, who Chrono is totally not into, although Isla is just buff Marl, so that kind of tracks. Also, she uses a club in the cutscene, something she does not do in-game. Isla is into rocks, and into men, and women. And so is Luca in the original Japanese, supposedly. Anyway, we find her village, and have a party, as you do. We obviously put off Kino, steals her stuff, but Reptites steal from him. And Isla gives him a bit of the old spousal abuse, and you're off to apply force. Because in a world with no moral ambiguity,
that's what heroes do.
Also, it is 4 hours into the game when I realized that modern Chrono Trigger has an auto-battle option. I don't know why I said that weird. I meant to say auto-battle option. It doesn't cast spells or nothing, it just auto-attacks for you, which is basically like having the Berserk ring on, but not getting any of the benefits of it. It is good in situations where you want to grind and the enemies you face are physically vulnerable. It's just a good quality of life addition. I also use it to speed through animations when I can. We find Azala. She's the leader of the Reptites, also known as history's greatest losers. Humans. We beat up Nisbel, her minion. We get the rock and the gate key and we head back to Melchior, who gives us a bit of a classic cutscene. In that things are happening, we can talk to people, but things will go automatically. Yes, I know, the Masamune is a European broadsword. I believe its original name was actually the Grand Leon, or the Grand Lion, which makes a little bit more sense, honestly. It's time for Frog to face his destiny. But first, we gotta learn about his past in a long frog-based cutscene. Perhaps we are meant to think Cyrus is frog, cursed, but then we see another character, Glenn, a squire, a friend. Anyway, Magnus not only shocks Cyrus to death, he breaks Masamune and pops Cyrus like a grape, except the grape is on fire. And then he curses Glenn, because why not? Magus is a jerk. Anyway, Frog's got some personal issues, but he gets up and joins the crew anyway. He wants to hunt Magus. He's got issues, but he ain't letting it get in the way of the right thing, or what he needs to do. Tight bit of design in that little cutscene, by the way, and that the Denador space before the Masamune was found is near where Magus rips the sword and Cyrus and Glenn a new one. Anyway, a cool cutscene ensues, which we see twice, which is weird. I like the anime cutscenes, but they can't exactly delete the original scene because they need to account for any party members you may have brought and the dialogue that they have to offer. Speaking of dialogue, Frog's got some great ones here, including reclaiming his original name, Glenn. To which Chrono replies, "Nah dog, you're still Frog to me." As an aside, you also gotta hoof it back to Specchio to give Frog magic. Kind of a hassle, not the best pacing. This is about the nadir of Chrono Trigger, which is saying a lot because it is still a very memorable moment. It is more of a nadir in that you gotta walk around. There's a lot of just moving around the map, but not really feeling like you're progressing the story. Anyway, you find your way to the cave, and you make it to Magus's castle. And man, they present it as if it were the final level. The castle itself, Magus's castle, is eerily quiet. No music. Echoing sound. Great for the tone that they're setting. The battle music itself is fort ambiance. Not your battle theme. You are not here on your terms. This is his place of power. Also, Slash of Guns N' Roses is here and he punches you. And then uses a sword. Flea of Red Hot Chili Peppers is also here in a way. We beat them within an inch of their life also. And Ozzy, who is in a pickle. I don't know, I never really liked them as a squad, or rather, they didn't really stick in my head. I saw them as a mini-boss squad as a kid, and they never gave me problems, so I never remembered them. But then there's Magus, who, much like Piccolo, aura farms. Excellent boss fight. The first time I saw a character's defenses break down instead of just being instantly annihilated. Thanks to the Masamune and us paying attention to his barrier changes, his defenses weakened, slowly, and then failed. We could not just bring out the biggest numbers, we had to be smart, or at least do things in the right order. It had mechanics, it was fun and light and dynamic. The Magus fight would shape what I thought was cool for decades. Piccolo with hair, the fire of the ominous chanting, the music. Other kids grew up with Sephiroth. I grew up with Magus. Magus spamming his ultimate too, because he was desperate. He wasn't just gonna dork around like, I cast it once, it's time for Lightning 2 again. Nah, dog. It's dark matter all the way. It was all fitting for the climax of the first act. And as far as I'm concerned, that was the first act. Because that is when we learned that Magus didn't create Lavos. He was waking it up. But if he didn't make him, where did it come from? And when? Those are questions for another time, and the time is in the past as a gate opens and throws you back into 65 million BC. We are discombobulated and confused. Magus is nowhere to be seen. The good news is we landed in friendly territory, near Isla's tribe, but Isla herself has gone ahead and tried to find another tribe. One that has decided to hide instead of fight, to finish the battle against the Reptites. When you follow her, all you find is smoke and ash. Oh, and I guess survivors, because the Reptites went over there, set things on fire, and kidnapped people. Hopefully, maybe in that order, we're not really sure. Isla here proves that while she does not have a good grasp of language, because they are early humans, she is smart in her own way. She has knowledge. She knows about being dead inside and knowing that they need to fight to live. It's an interesting conversation, but one that is way more common in today's media. So, I don't know how hard it is going to hit if it is your first time experiencing it or reading it. Anyway, we get pterodactyls out of it. Isla gets a second cinematic, and we head to Tyranno Lair, where the Reptites hold court with their hostages, while an ominous red star looms overhead. Wow, Mom let you have 2 layers in a row? Music is a banger, of course. All in all, Tyranno Lair is actually a bit of a breather compared to the mixed enemies you fought in Magus's castle. Those required a mix of magic and physical. Here we can just beat them into the dirt, which makes sense because the implied canonical outcome without us interfering is that Isla beats them back enough to ensure humans win, and she can't get magic. You rescue everyone they kidnapped, and then I level up enough to see the contrasts in how characters gain powers in Chrono Trigger. Isla learns to toss boulders and glaciers, Chrono learns to raise the dead, and later create dead by way of a localized nuclear explosion. You fight your way through the layer past Disbel 2 into a showdown with Azala. The fate of the world hangs in the balance. Who shall inherit? We will. We're from the future. We know the Reptites are doomed. Which we express by beating up Azala and her Black Tyranno, who is very big. On a side note, Azala has psychokinesis, which is... Jesus, how did Isla last this long? After we beat Azala into the ground, we learn that the red rock is going to hit the planet square on Tyranno Lair, which basically decapitates their leadership because the cosmic finger of God sent a giant space alien onto their necks. It is then that you learn the meaning of Lavos, and is a term that somehow lasts into the future. Isla offers Azala a ride, but she refuses, and simply asks us to take care of the planet. The world ends for the first time. A whole species is condemned to extinction. The Ice Age threatens the land. And then we go after Baby Lavos, answering which side of the question the Time Gang would take. And why shouldn't we dive in through that fresh gate left behind by a baby Lavos? We beat the legendary Fiendlord. We beat a giant Tyrannosaurus and ensured the end of a competing species. Sure, let's punch the world destroyer in the crib, which has been their plan all along. Find Lavos at its weakest, and then kill it. For a bunch of teens who just happen across evidence of the end of the world, they've got good killer instincts. Luca also figures out that Lavos is creating the gates, so we probably should be careful when we take Lavos out. Anyway, we end up in the snow. In a different time, we walk out into the snow and find something strange. Something ancient and powerful. A teleporter. We go from the ruined earth to the peaceful sky. Like, going from the era of the Flintstones to the Jetsons. You meet some strange people, one of whom tells you that you are not one of them. That's gonna be a thing, isn't it? The song in the background might sound familiar because it's what played when you paid a visit to Melchior. And Masamune is here? Huh, things are starting to come together. I also realize I might have been saying you instead of we or I, which is, I guess we'll all just have to deal with that because I'm not going back to edit that. Anyway, as we adventure, we meet a purple-haired kid with a color-coordinated cat as per the distribution system. He says, "One of you shall shortly perish," because he is rude. He's got bad manners, but he's probably an okay kid. Oh, hey, you know who else has purple hair? Trunks, so that's probably a Dragon Ball reference.
You need to be stopped!
Also, we learn Falcon Strike, which it becomes a whole thing. Our Falcon Strike era officially begins, and so we can bully our way through most encounters. The difficulty officially takes a hit here and never really recovers. And since Ayla is the only unit with Charm, which allows her to steal from enemies and get you gear ahead of when you should have it, there's very little reason to ever take her out of the party except if you want to see specific reactions. We learn about the gurus, Queen Zeal, the children, Shala and Yanis, who is that purple-haired kid, who is probably Magus. It is also heavily implied that the sudden leap in technology and magic was due to interacting with a red rock. Okay, it's not so much hinted later on as it is straight up said. Zeal, this kingdom, is interacting with Lavos and using it to further their technology by leaps and bounds. A little bit more comes together. Ayla can't use or learn magic. They only learn that from Lavos. Anyway, the whole area is basically an info dump that you can take at your pace. We can talk to everyone or just find secrets and dip. Nothing is too critical, but it can help smooth out the storytelling and give you info like, hey, that pendant Marl has looks like Shala, the princess's pendant. What a weird coincidence that surely won't matter. Also, Yanis gets to call his anxiety the Black Wind, which, okay, fair, it's better than calling it psionic poison damage. Oh, and, this culture is drawing power from Lavos, which is bad. Dependent is Lavos powered. Magic is definitely Lavos gifted. This economic strategy will later be known as the Argent Energy Strategy and will fail 100% of the time. Anyway, you charge up Marl's pendant to follow Shala into the Queen's chambers because we are teenagers with no better ideas or plans, which is fair. I would not fare too well in their situation even if I got past the time travel part. The Queen of Zeal turns out to be mad or at the very least bored and has her former right-hand man, Dalton, beat us up with a golem. You can win this fight. I did not. Magus is obviously there, calling himself the Prophet and pretending that nobody knows what is going on, which, you know what, fine, I'll let it slide. He's aura farming and scamming his way in with knowledge of the future. We're captured, but Shala sets us free and tells us where a guru is, the guru of life, the Mountain of Woe, which is like, and tells us to free him. Before we do, Not Magus arrives and threatens to end us, but Shala makes a deal. She will cooperate with Magus, the Prophet, if he doesn't kill us. So, instead, we are banished back through the gate and she locks the door. Well, alright, we're sent back to the past, but now we have a charged pendant and a door in the future to open. The plot is ramping up. We're getting more direction from the game instead of having to wander around. We are now told exactly where to go, which makes sense. The team, the characters, have more information to work with. So they're putting stuff together for us, the player. Now is a good time to mention that if there's any character failing in Chrono Trigger, which is not very character-driven in the first place, it's that no one really seems to care that they're traveling through time. It feels like this should be a big deal, but it's not to them. It may as well just be another continent to them, which I guess is a missed opportunity. That aside, our journey through the future brings us back through old areas to get to the first one. I probably could have gone to the Guardia Forest Gate, but I forgot, so I walked. Anyway, it's a nice opportunity to see how many tools we've gained and how much power we've gained since our very first adventure into the future. But here we are in the future, and it sucks. I can't believe it sucks so bad, but we do end up learning a bit more about Lavos, how it burrowed into the earth and is a giant parasite, spawning more parasites. It has killed the world, but the Guru of Time has left you a gift. The Wings of Time. The Epoch. Now you don't need the gates. Here is when you can go around opening mysterious doors and unlocking chests and so forth. There's value in that. Some sealed mysterious chests in the past can be given a little nudge, then visited in the future to get an upgraded version. And you can go back in time to pick up the old one so you can get an upgraded version and a bad one at the same time. But that is a tremendous hassle that requires back and forth, so maybe not yet for me. Okay, I wanted to get the swallow, which will carry us for a little bit. Anyway, back to the pasta. We're gonna go back to antiquity, which was not what it was called before. I believe it was called the Dark Ages. We now hit the village of Algeti, where it is totally not a metaphor for anything ever. They have no magic, and thus do not belong in the magical kingdom of Zeal. Yay, Zeal is terrible. Shala comes over there and plays with them sometimes. It's sad in that village, and that's just the vibe of the village. Wait till you actually learn more about them and determine that these people are not posers, they're full of suffering. We stay on task. We go after the Guru of Life. We punch our way through the Mountain of Woe, which have enemies that are worth 100 tech points. They're called Rubble, and you can't use tech abilities on them. You just whack them. I mention this because they also have high evasion, and I have very fond memories of pretending that pressing a button as Chrono's attack landed changed whether it was a hit or a miss. Also, since Chrono is the only character you cannot remove from the team, or the active party, he's gonna get way ahead of the party, way ahead of everybody else. But don't worry about it, because we're gonna rescue the Guru of Life in a very cool boss battle in which we abuse the hell out of Falcon Strike. Turns out, the Guru of Life is Melchor. We knew he was one of them, we just were not sure which one. Also, the mountain is collapsing, which is freaky but doesn't actually do any damage. It does, however, tip our hand. People know that the Guru is free. Shala joins us immediately at Algeti, but is immediately kidnapped by Dalton, the Queen's former right-hand man, so Shala, can activate the Mammon Machine, which is what they use to draw power from Lavos, because she is the only one who can. The Mammon Machine itself is being brought to the Ocean Palace, an underwater, palace that is closer to Lavos, so the Mammon Machine can suck more Lavos juice out. By the way, Dalton is a dick. He punches kids, and farts, and shoots old people. Well, the farting is for later. The kid punching and old man fireballing, he does that whenever he wants. Anyway, Shala left the door open, so we can stop her mother. And off we go, but not before Melchor gives us the red knife, which can break the Mammon Machine or absorb its energy. You break into the Ocean Palace. Like Magus's castle, its music overrides your own. Walkways are suspended over lava with no safety railings and is in no way OSHA compliant, so if you're gonna hear from lawyers. Through your adventure, you cut to scenes with Shala, the Prophet, and the Queen, who wants immortality for herself and the kingdom. Shala is visibly hurt and shaken every time she activates the Mammon Machine. The Prophet is shaken too, concerned for his sister, but doesn't really do anything. Presumably he has a plan. Let's hope it's a good one. Somewhere here, I also learned Luminaire, Chrono's top skill. Which is gonna be our crutch for a short while. We beat our way to the depths and beat up 2 golems, and we face off with Dalton, who beats a hasty retreat with a wet fart, as risking death moments before immortality feels like a poor bet. We challenge Queen Zeal, the Mammon Machine. We hurl the red knife, who turns out to be Masa Edmune, and it transforms into the Masamune, Which, Frog would lose his shit if he were here, but I feel like that twist is just the latest in a long line of things that should have driven him crazy. Which I guess is the perfect time for Lavos to awaken. He one-shots us. We are easily battered, beaten. Magus, pretending that he had the element of surprise, throws off his hood, and being a superior magic user, immediately gets his magic drained, and then he has to strike with a physical attack. That only serves to ruin his aura further. The Queen laughs at your party. But Chrono is no quitter. He doesn't talk, because he speaks with actions. This scene stayed in my mind as a child, and it stays in my mind today. The way Chrono disintegrates. The way you just have a party without your main character now. Lavos has awakened, and the world ends a second time. Oh, that's so good. I believe this is where Act 3 of Chrono Trigger starts, because in an hour or two you can immediately try to end a game. It might not be satisfying, but you can do it. So your team, our team, wakes up in the last bastion of humanity, or at least the one we landed nearest to. Or Peopolity? Well, just sky people and the Flintstones hanging out in the Ice Age. It's no good. This place sucks. The Earthbound have been and are being really cool about all the humans' rights abuses and demeaning treatment, but that's a discussion for another day. Everyone is just surviving together. Kinda. Magic is now low, if non-existent. And as you try to get your bearings, it gets worse. Dalton pops his farty head in, and you're captured in kind of the worst way. A child's trick no one should fall for when the tone is this bleak and this hopeless. Not the game's best moment, but it might be intentional because it does serve the frustration of just dealing with someone like Dalton, which is actually a video for another day. You are sent to the Blackbird, which we may have seen earlier, and stripped of equipment, which is funny because Isla is in the team and Isla's equipment is punchy. She doesn't need gear, which is important because the bad guys intelligently kept the equipment separate, not together. So you need to look for multiple chests with your stuff, like your money and items and everyone's gear. If you didn't have Isla, we'd have to scout around and look for the gear you can access without getting into a fight. Approach things very carefully. But since I had Isla, I didn't need to think. And when you play through this, don't worry about forgetting your gear. A team member will tell you if you've forgotten something before you get to the point of no return, which is a fight against Farty Man, who has, unfortunately, the worst people have done something good, and it's, he gave Epoch wings, and now it can fly. He is also a startlingly easy fight against, almost as if the game was apologizing for the horror you've just gone through. Oh my god. Anyway, you beat him up and somehow he doesn't die. Also, the Epoch has guns, but I don't think those ever come up again. The team has an airship and insist on looking for Chrono. We do discover rumors of a man that washed up at around the same time you did. You go to the Cape, and it's not Chrono. It's our aura farming not friend, Magus. Your team is emotionally drained, angry, and tired. And now they have to decide what to do with the world's coolest failure, who caused a war in the 600s, killed one of your party members' best friends, and doesn't really seem to care about the mayhem they caused. Notably, we can get him into the party, not by forgiving him, but by merely saying he's not worth our time. Frog can appropriately duel him, or if Frog isn't in the party, we just jump his ass. For this playthrough, I am letting him live and join us because that's what I did as a kid. He joins the party. He can't team up with people. He does not have combination techs unless he equips a special accessory. Not a team player. Also, we get a brief glimpse of possibly how Yanis originally landed in the Middle Ages, because that cannot have been the way that went down this time. Maybe. There's a bit of time travel shenanigans here. I'm not sure when this particular event is happening. I probably missed some dialogue explaining this, but more importantly, Magus gives you a hint, something that your team, especially Luca, but especially Robo, should have realized. You've got a time machine. And, just as importantly, zero fucks to give about the timeline. Chrono's death can be undone. It's just a matter of how. And with that, the final act has truly begun. But the day's not over yet. As we get on the ship, the Ocean Palace rises. As the Black Omen, the final dungeon, which you'll be surprised to learn is entirely optional. Hey, what are those green gates? I've never seen those before. What the hell? Anyway, Chrono first. When you play the game, you can do whatever you want. I'm gonna rescue Chrono first, because that's what makes me comfortable. You can ignore Chrono and do side quests. You can finish the game without him. You can hit up Lavos using the Lavos bucket or ramming the Epoch into him. Sky's the limit. If you don't know what to do, talk to the old man, who turns out to be the guru of time, which will give you hints as to what you can do to make the world better and to make the final battles easier. We do the good that we can. But first, we revive Chrono. We ask Balthazar for help, who tells us that Death Peak is where we want to go. And since Lavos is there it probably warps time somehow. But first, we'll need a doll of the deceased, which we can get from the Millennial Fair. Holy cow, that laugh should not be there. But I think Chrono Trigger actually released before Final Fantasy VI. So, we get the doll after earning some silver points and having an encounter with Chrono's mother. We lie. It's off back to the future. We fight our way through Death Peak, battling Lavos' children, charming elixirs off him. And finally, you get to the peak of Death Peak. For a brief moment, hope leaves us. The time egg, which Balthazar gave us to facilitate this whole thing, shatters. To seemingly no effect. But then, we make it back to the moment of Chrono's death, the fated moment. We do a quick switcheroo. We put the doll in Chrono's place, so we don't cause an internal paradox. We still think he's dead, but we get to bring him back to the future. In a moment that I found emotional as a child and a little emotional, now as an adult, we have Chrono back, and now he's an optional character who can be slotted in and out of the party. This is a moment seared into my memory. I played through this scene with different characters just to see how they'd react to his return. I found the area easy now, but as a child, it was a horrendous challenge and I felt like I earned Chrono's return. He's back. And now that that task is done, it was time to turn our gaze to the rest of history. It's the fated hour, and it is Side Quest City. We resolve various things, such as Barl's relationship with her father, Cyrus's spirit, the Masamune, Robo's future, and the forest. Additionally, since the Black Omen has been around since antiquity, it's just become part of history. It has always been there. It has never done anything bad to anyone, so it's just a weird thing. Never mind the name, don't worry about it. And also, who told these people that it was called the Black Omen? There's also a lot of optional scenes. You can bring Vamasat to be Guardian of Royalty, or you can go back to Marl's dad before starting that quest. Sky's the limit. It's very old school. I think all those little moments are special and built a lot of the world you're trying to save, which is very cool. So, we punch our way through time. Special mention goes to the forest, to Fiona's forest, where you get to personally resolve one of Luca's issues and is the most meta and introspective moments of Chrono Trigger as a whole. It is almost Undertale Delta Rune-ish in its questioning, which is wrong to say because I'm pretty sure Chrono Trigger came out before Toby Fox was even born. Also in the forest, the aforementioned Luca issues, where you get to save her mother and keep her from being crippled by a machine. Additionally, it gives you buttons to press on screen now, rather than relying on the layout of the SNES controller, which you probably do not have. This is also an event that raises further questions later. Or is answered by a blonde in Chrono Cross in the form of gratitude, because I'm pretty sure once we've done all that we can, we look to the Black Omen, the final dungeon. Or not, depending on what you want to do, but for me it was. The Black Omen is technically an optional final dungeon. You can simply teleport to the Day of Lavos and end it there, or crash the Epoch. There's lots of options, but I'm going through it to make Magus go through it. If he has to live, he has to take down his own mother. I don't make the rules, and he barely feels sorry for anything. He also sleeps standing up. The Black Omen is ominous and foreboding and timeless. You can't farm it by going backwards in time. Zeal is eternal. The background is an immense void, implying depth and scale that the lava pools of the Ocean Palace denied you. But everything in it is also vulnerable to the awesome power of Chrono's nuclear weapon, Luminaire, and barring that, a Falcon Strike. So, all that moodiness and aura can be offset by a little bit of grinding, or just doing all the side quests, really, which feels like the intended experience. Chrono Trigger, I think, is not made to be a challenging game or a supposed hardcore experience. It is made to be a victorious, optimistic experience, one that says that if you do enough, you can be enough, and you can change the world for the better. Also, I kicked Chrono out so Isla can vibe and steal stuff. Probably not a mistake. We battle. I brought Magus along for the mother and son mashup. He gives her a real verbal thrashing, and then... You know, I didn't actually know this would happen. I didn't know his theme song would take over. I don't remember it doing that before, but this is a nice and cool addition. Notably, Zeal does not give a single shit about Magus's judgment. She doesn't even realize that's her son, Lamau. And then it's Lavos, Lavos O'Clock, who uses the strat of every mandatory boss we've faced. You know, and doesn't change HP for each one. He doesn't update it. So if a dragon tank's like 200 HP or whatever, still 200 when you regularly do over 1,000. Jesus, it also probably forgot that, well, why use those tactics against the people who have destroyed those things before and have only gotten stronger since? But that's just the outer shell. Hey, bonus by the way, here's what happens if you lose against Lavos at any point. Anyway, once you get through the outer shell, you face a giant cell-type creature, a pilot of some sort, and then can tank a few Luminaires and Falcon Strikes, and beyond that is the real Lavos. The pilot, the Lavos core. The trick with this fight is that the middle one is the threat, it casts the offensive spells, but it's not the real boss, it's the right bit, the little tiny one on the right, the left one just heals. So, that has to die first, and then we gotta pummel that. One, the right one, or just Luminaire everything. It is a triumph. I'm making a note here. Huge success. Because the ending is a victory lap. We just enjoy ourselves. Chrono is freed from execution, and I'm surprised it took this long, because Luca helps out by bringing everyone across time to serve as witnesses, and, I guess the King of Guardia was like, you know what, there's a old homeless man here, and a dude that looks like my grandpa. So, I guess it's all legit, we'll let that slide. That all aside, the ending is a victory lap. You even do a literal victory lap. They do acknowledge some dark parts when you part ways because the gates are closing. Lavos is gone. And while the specific timeline of the gates is up in the air, we don't know why they sent us to those specific points in time, Lavos was intrinsically connected to the gates being open in the first place. So they're leaving. This is such a silly goodbye. Everyone's like, we'll never see each other again, forgetting that the epoch exists. But I digress. It is a victory lap because it keeps with the heart and soul of the game for the future. It thinks of the future. In the sequence, you do not dwell on what has passed. Like many endings do, they show you everything that has happened before, how you got here. This game focuses on what is and what is going to be. You think on the current. You are shown the future. It is a denouement for those wondering what happens now. And it is good. I think there is space for the simple story done well. And the game has aged exceedingly well for what it is, a game made 30 years ago. If you're looking for a game with immense depth and numerous mechanics that come from that time, you'll have to look at computer RPGs such as Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, Icewind Dale. However, if you don't mind the mechanical shallowness, Chrono Trigger still has a lot to offer, and a simple story that does not require reading Wikipedia entries to understand. It's a simple game of optimism and hope. And that if you do enough good, the world will just be better. Some might say that that's not realistic or disagree with that as a whole. But Chrono Cross would do it right by showing all the negative consequences of time travel and the bad of doing anything at all. This is a world with time travel, talking reptiles and kids who can create nukes. Why should I be so cynical as to draw the line of realism at a happy ending? I'm Patinator. You know what to do. I'll see you later.